to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV on Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T Channel 99, where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us live on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford, and live to tape on Channel 10 at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. in Lake Orion and Orion Township on Orion Neighborhood Television, otherwise known as ONTV. You can also find us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on 88.1 The Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, 24/7 operations out of Bloomfield Hills High School, and original programming from Bloomfield Hills High School students from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Find us online on our Facebook pages at Civic Center TV 15 and at Lakes FM, on our website at civiccentertv.com, and on My Michigan TV, otherwise known as My at mymytv.com, where you can also learn more about downloading their free MyMyTV apps for your smartphone and smart TV. All of that information is on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also find all of our programs on demand and each individual interview as well. Then let's head on over to our coronavirus page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have links to the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 from reliable, expert, trusted resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, so that you can stay up to date on everything that you need to know about the spread of COVID-19, precautionary tactics such as masking, as well as vaccinations and booster shots. Also on our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the state of Michigan in order to keep you up to date on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across Michigan. Our top story today is our coronavirus tracker via Bridge, Michigan. Michigan's positivity rate has now gone below 4%. Michigan reported 1,656 new COVID-19 cases on Monday, or an average of 552 over each of the past 3 days, as well as 16 deaths. That lowered the 7-day average to 800 cases per day, down from 830 on Friday. It was at 5,500 daily cases just a month ago. Currently, there are 875 patients in Michigan hospitals being treated for confirmed or suspected COVID-19. That's down from 972 last week, Friday. The last time there were this few cases of COVID-19 patients in hospitals was August 11th of 2021, when there were 859 COVID-19 patients. Over the most recent 3 days of coronavirus testing, 4.4% of the 50,459 tests were positive over the past week. That rate is 4%, above the 3% target to indicate no community spread being widespread throughout the state. But 2 weeks ago, that rate was at nearly 8%, and it was 19% just a month ago. So, still trending in the right direction on the COVID-19 front. Read that entire article from Bridge, Michigan, and keep up to date on their coronavirus tracker by visiting our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Also making headlines today at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from the Associated Press via the Detroit News, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel has announced the first charges in the Boy Scouts investigation. Michigan authorities on Wednesday announced the first criminal charges stemming from the state's review of child sex abuse lawsuits against the Boy Scouts of America, charging that a former troop leader before his release from a New York prison on separate claims. Mark Chapman, 51 years old, is accused of sexually assaulting 2 boys at the time he was a scoutmaster in the Roseville area, where he also worked in and attended the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Starting in 2000, one victim was abused at the church where the troop sometimes met, and other places from the time that he was 13 or 14 until the age of 17, according to Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. The second victim was assaulted for years, beginning when he was about 11 years old. One of the men called a tip line, quote, "It's not just important for us to hold the person accountable for all of the harm that was suffered by the victims, but to prevent future crimes from occurring," said Nessel at a news conference in Detroit related to the charges. On the charges, she said, quote, are only the beginning, end closed quote. Chapman, who is due to be paroled in New York this week after serving more than 9 years for child abuse convictions there, was charged now so he cannot leave the criminal justice system, Nessel said. Authorities were working to extradite him to Michigan. The Associated Press could not immediately determine if Chapman had an attorney. The Attorney General's office and the Michigan State Police last year launched a joint review of what are now 5,000 civil claims forwarded by the Boy Scouts of America. A completed review of 550 claims resulted in roughly 60 inquiries being sent to state police for further investigation. The Boy Scouts last month reached a tentative settlement with a bankruptcy committee representing more than 80,000 men who say they were molested as children by Scout leaders and others. All told, the compensation fund would total more than $2.6 billion, which would be the largest aggregate sex abuse settlement in United States history. Also Wednesday, Dana Nessel, the Attorney General, gave an update on a years-long probe of sex abuse by clergy in the Roman Catholic Church. It has resulted in 11 prosecutions. The office has reviewed all but 245,000 of 5 million paper and digital documents from Michigan's 7 dioceses. The review has identified 454 accused priests and 811 reported victims, according to the Attorney General's office. That full article, as well as supporting materials from our friends at the Detroit Free Press on our website, the Detroit News, via that article from the Associated Press on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Lastly, making headlines today at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, this time from our good friends at the Detroit Free Press. A Native American group is demanding that Detroit cops undergo cultural awareness training. This, of course, as I said, from the Detroit News. A Native American group is demanding Detroit police undergo, quote-unquote, cultural awareness training weeks after officers broke up a ceremony in Rouge Park involving fire that was performed without a permit and an expired memorandum of understanding with the city. The Detroit Indigenous Peoples Alliance issued a statement on Wednesday about the February 18th incident involving the Detroit Sugar Bush project, which says on its website it's dedicated to, quote, connecting youth in Detroit to indigenous experts in the cultural tradition of making maple syrup, in closed quote, as was done by the Anishinaabe and the Potawatomi tribes. Quote, our response has taken some time as we have been tapping trees, hauling sap, and boiling it down for the past 2 weeks, in closed quote, Wednesday statement said. The group last month, quote-unquote, hosted a sacred fire with a small group of Sugar Bush organizers and urban native peoples, end close quote, in Rouge Park on Detroit's northwest side, according to the statement. Quote, despite being informed of the ceremonial nature of this gathering, officers threatened to arrest indigenous participants, including members of federally recognized tribes, forcing them to extinguish the sacred fire, the statement said. This was a desecration, end closed quote. The article continues on saying, quote, many share responsibilities for the night, event organizers, police, and communications between city departments, also said in the statement. At the end of the statement, the group issued 9, quote-unquote, demands, including a call for officers to attend cultural awareness training and that the city permanently recognize the Sugar Bush project and, quote-unquote, work toward land back, the concept of returning lands to the original peoples who were stewards of the lands prior to European invasion and colonization, end closed quote. The group also wants the city to work with the Sugar Bush project to make the location of the event, quote-unquote, more accessible to our elders and community and provide some funding. Antonio Cosme, who helped organize the ceremony, told the Detroit News he hopes city, fire, and police officials will work with the coalition so that future ceremonies will be held without issues. Quote, what I'd like to see happen is for the city departments to communicate better, he said, continuing on. We'd had a memorandum of understanding with the city for 2 years, end closed quote. Cosme acknowledged the memorandum of understanding had expired prior to last month's event and that the group didn't have a valid permit to perform the ceremony. Quote, the MOU had expired the week before the event, he said, adding that the group was still waiting for a permit. Quote, we had applied, but the maple sap doesn't wait for the permit process, end closed quote, he said, continuing on, quote, the city is slow about getting permits out, end closed quote. 3 days after the incident, Detroit Police Chief James White issued a statement explaining that officers responded to a report of a fire in the park and that the group had shown officers, quote, no evidence of compliance with key components of the expired memorandum of understanding, such as a fire permit and proof of insurance. Quote, the officer's actions were only due to the bonfire in the middle of the public park without a permit and was not directed as a means to break up a sacred cultural ceremony, end close quote, White said. However, White added in his statement, quote, we would like to apologize for the interruption of a sacred ceremony. Interesting. I have directed our Executive Manager of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Mary Engelman, to identify opportunities for our officers to work with the organizers. Quote, I've been in contact with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, state and local elected officials, and community members. I plan to meet with Michigan Senator Adam Hollier and the Native American community to learn and grow from this situation, end close quote, said Chief White in the statement. That full article from the Detroit News on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those helpful links to accurate information on COVID-19 from the CDC, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Thursday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up next, we'll head to Lansing and talk to Senator Mallory McMorrow, who represents the local 13th district in the Senate, about a number of different issues and some legislation that she is working on to help reduce misleading tactics in petition drives. That's all coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you did. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners, working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is the source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Joining us now is State Senator Mallory McMorrow. She is a Democrat from Michigan's 13th district, joining us on the Megacast. Senator, thank you for being with us today.
Hey, Tyler. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning to you as well. Thanks for coming on. So recently you tweeted saying, quote, in Michigan, horror on the world stage is horror at home. I stand with our Ukrainian-American neighbors. The United States has always stood firm against authoritarian regimes and must stand together against Vladimir Putin, a man who will stop at nothing to watch democracy fail. Can you talk about the invasion of Ukraine and President Putin and why this is such a blow to everyone, including people right here in Michigan, despite this, the crux of this issue being hundreds of thousands of miles away from us?
Absolutely. I mean, it was hard the other day to wake up and realize the world is at war again. And whether or not it's here on our shores, it's the largest war in Europe that we've seen since World War II. And Michigan does have a significant Ukrainian American population, including here in Oakland County, right here in our district. We have thousands of residents who have family in Ukraine. So it really is an attack on Michiganders and people who we love and who are our neighbors. But more than that, I think it points to the concerning rise globally that we've seen in this kind of retreat towards nationalism, authoritarianism, and this was it, right? This is the moment where we see Putin, I think, probably over assuming that is where the country is that we are retreating to nationalism. And it has been, as horrific as it is inspiring to see how many countries, people are rallying around Ukraine, the Ukrainians fighting for their lives, seeing 80-year-olds shine up to join the military, seeing families doing everything they possibly can and seeing the world rally around them. So it is still an absolutely horrifying moment, and we have to do everything we can to support Ukraine. But I think also reassuring that democracy is worth fighting for, and the world is going to come out to fight for democracy.
Of course, here in the state of Michigan, not a whole lot from a leadership standpoint can be done to directly address the conflict that's underway across the ocean over there in Eastern Europe and Ukraine because of the invasion by Russia. But that being said, as you mentioned, there is a quite significant Ukrainian American population here in Oakland County and in the Detroit area. Heck, we had over 1,000 people down at Hart Plaza yesterday at a rally in support of those in Ukraine and stopping the war over in Ukraine. So for you as a leader here in the state of Michigan with our Ukrainian American population, and given the response by our federal government in the immediate aftermath of Vladimir Putin and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, what it seems to be the reaction from your constituents here in the 13th District to the response from our federal government, and what sort of requests or information have they given you in terms of their opinion on the response? And is it enough? Does it seem to be enough in their opinion of an effort from us here in the U.S. to protect our allies in Ukraine?
Yeah, I will say, I've been overwhelmed by the number of constituents who have reached out and just said, number one, as your constituent, please make our stance clear that we stand with Ukraine against this horrific attack from Putin, this unwarranted attack. But then beyond that, people are just asking how they can help. I think that it's one of the things that we wanted to state pretty clearly in my statement is, although my role doesn't work on kind of foreign affairs in any regular basis, we do have a significant population here at home. So we are in touch with our Ukrainian community here in Michigan and in the district. We're taking a lead from them. A few of my colleagues and I are potentially working on a resolution to be introduced, potentially encouraging the federal government to do more, particularly around investments that have been made by Russian oligarchs here in the country, which is something that we can do. So there's more to come, but we are really taking the lead from the community directly, because these are Ukrainian Americans who do have family there, who are really leading the way for us and really telling me what they need me to do as their state legislator. We're joined by State Senator Mallory McMorrow, a Democrat from Michigan's 13th district here on the Megacast, representing Royal Oak. Here in the state on more local issues and statewide issues, everyone will see from time to time petition seekers out on the town in public spaces, maybe even going door to door to get signatures for petitions. Sometimes those petitions are well-intentioned and maybe ever so slightly misinforming. Other times they may be deliberately misinforming. You and other colleagues of yours in Lansing are taking action on that, or at least attempting to take some action on preventing that, or at least giving some agency to those that sign these petitions if they come to realize that this information may not be what they thought it was, that they can pull their name from that petition. Can you give us some insight on this legislation that you and your colleagues have been working on? Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of set the stage quickly is here in Michigan, I think that the petition initiative process is a very powerful tool that we have worth protecting. And it is one that not every state has, where residents can take action to put an issue on the ballot if they feel like the legislature is not taking action. This is the process by which we got the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission to finally take the drawing of our congressional and legislative lines out of the hands of legislators. It's also how we legalized recreational marijuana. But it's still a system that needs reform. There are actors out there who are abusing this system. There is currently a loophole in the way that our laws work, where the legislature has the first crack at a petition initiative. So if an initiative collects enough signatures, the legislature can choose to adopt that internally and pass it without it ever going to the ballot. And if that happens, that passes into law and the governor cannot veto it. So there are some groups that are using it intentionally to get to the legislature to put something forward that may not be the will of a majority of residents to get out of the governor's veto. But then there's also just the reality that there are more than a dozen potential petitions circulating right now. And it is legal right now for a circulator to lie to you about what it does. An example from a reporter from MLive was he was approached outside of a supermarket and a circulator said, "Would you sign a petition to help special needs kids in the state?" That was the question. No additional information. And most people would probably instinctually say, of course, yes, what do we need to do? But the reality was this petition was the petition that has been funded by the DeVosses and many other organizations to create school vouchers in Michigan, which would effectively cut the school aid fund by over $1 billion over the next 5 years and be a hurt to public education. So it's one of those things where we think that it's a powerful tool that needs to be held intact, but we have to protect the integrity of this tool. So we have a package of bills that would create penalties for organizations that are intentionally lying or misleading residents about what it is. And then my bill in the package would allow you, let's say, you were approached by this circulator who asked if you wanted to help special needs kids. You said, absolutely. You signed it. You went home later. Let's say you read a little bit more about what this petition does and you felt misled and said, I actually don't support that you would have the ability to request that your signature be removed from that petition so that you feel confident in what you're supporting as a voter.
It's an interesting balance because on one hand, the public and citizens do have a right to file petitions, to petition for legislation or to petition on a certain number of issues. That you need to be careful in trying to keep that pure without preventing people from being able to have that ability to file those petitions. So on that note, what protections then are in place for those that maybe are putting these petitions out there? Maybe they are unintentionally misleading and people are signing them and eventually pulling that out. Is there going to be penalty then in that case if someone's not deliberately misleading people, or if simply those that are signing these petitions aren't reading that information before they're signing?
Yeah, and that's the balance that we tried to strike, right? I think that we have to protect this process, and we're not trying to eliminate the ability for people to put petitions forward because it is a powerful tool. But I had an interesting exchange with a petition circulator on Twitter who said, I'm a paid circulator. It pays $30, $40 an hour. That's a great job. And said, I support the idea of scholarships for students because the language that's used sounds really, really positive. But again, that is the initiative that would create a school voucher program that would cut the school aid fund significantly. So I had a back and forth with this individual and kind of explained a little bit more about what this petition does. And I think that highlighted a really important point, is that a lot of the people actually doing their circulating may not know. Some of these petition initiatives are really wonky, and unless you know the policy inside and out, you may, A, want a good job that pays well and you're good at doing it, and B, think fundamentally, yeah, I do agree with this. So that's why in our package, we want to make sure that the penalties are on the groups responsible for educating the circulators about what this is and being upfront about what it does and ensuring that the language is readily available, and not necessarily punishing people who are looking for good jobs who may unknowingly be sharing the wrong information and not doing so maliciously.
We're joined by Senator Mallory McMorrow from Michigan's 13th District here on the Megacast. She represents Royal Oak in the 13th District. And so just to continue on this topic, given that this legislation is being proposed, this is something that's in the works, may or may not end up becoming the letter of the law here in the state of Michigan, depending on where it goes from here. On the other side of things, while that responsibility should, in some way, shape, or form, be on those that are filing these petitions and are petitioning for those signatures to not misinform the public, there should also be some agency on the part of the people that are potentially signing or may have already signed these petitions to know what they're getting involved with, to know what they're signing, or at the very least look into it before they put pen to paper. What suggestions do you and other leaders in our communities have for those individuals that may have in the past been misled in these scenarios, or may have not been misled but simply did not read what they were signing?
Absolutely. And it's tough, right? Because usually you're approached when you're outside of a grocery store. You probably have your hands full. You might have your kid with you. I have a 1-year-old, so I know how hectic it is. And you may not have time to read and think about it. So my go-to, and what I'm suggesting everybody do right now, is don't sign anything when it's put in front of you right away. Ask the circulator if there's a website where they can go home and learn more information. Frankly, that's what I'm doing right now, even when people are asking me to sign things. And this is what I do for a living. So take the time. You want to make sure that you feel confident that if your name is on something, that it's something that you genuinely support.
Yeah, and that goes not just for these petitions, but really for any document that you are signing in general, even if it's something you've signed before. And, I went and got an oil change recently, and signing the paper after that to authorize that I'm making that transaction, I glanced that over at least before I sign it, just to make sure that there's nothing sneaky in there, nothing predatory that might be in there. And that's always something that's got to be on the side of those that are signing these documents. You've got to know what you're signing before you put pen to paper. But good to hear that there are some discussions at least about on the topic of if somebody signs something that they ultimately don't support and they figure that out, that they can pull their name from that. While everyone has the right to petition on certain issues, and others have the right as well to sign in support of those issues, that ability to then pull your support should also be there. We're joined by Democratic Senator Mallory McMorrow from Michigan's 13th District on the Megacast. Learn more information on the Megacast on our website, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Also, something else that you're working on here in the state of Michigan is Senate Bill 553. Now, this is addressing safe gun storage in the wake of the shooting at Oxford High School in November of last year. Can you give us a bit of an overview of Senate Bill 553 and what this aims to do in terms of producing a safer paradigm for gun storage here in the state of Michigan?
Absolutely. And one thing that I want to point out up front is while these bills were reintroduced in the wake of the Oxford school shooting, there are dozens of bills that myself and colleagues as part of the Gun Violence Prevention Caucus have been working on for years. I've been in the legislature now for over 3 years. My colleague Robert Wittenberg actually started this caucus, so it has been many years in the making of legislation to try to prevent gun violence and make sure that we're striking that balance of respecting the Second Amendment, but making sure we are encouraging responsible gun ownership and preventing horrible events from happening and taking lives. And, I think the school shootings, especially like Oxford, very naturally take the headlines, but there have been a handful of incidents this year alone where children have gotten a hold of guns and they're very curious, and it's leading to serious injuries. There was a child as young as 2 this year in the Metro Detroit area who got a hold of a firearm that was just loose in a home and set it off and injured himself. So what this package of bills would do would require that any owner of a gun, if you have minors in the household, that you are required by law to safely secure that firearm. That can be with a gun lock, that can be with a safe, but it really puts the onus on, if you're a responsible gun owner, you're licensed, you've got everything you need to be carrying that weapon, that you are the one who has ownership of it, that it is not getting into the hands of the wrong people. And we had students out just last week with March for Our Lives, an advocacy organization working to prevent gun violence that was started by Parkland students in the wake of the Parkland school shooting. And we had students high schoolers, 15, 16-year-olds in Lansing. And one of the students told me that 2 of her friends this year alone have attempted suicide with a gun that they had found in their respective homes. So this is a really powerful tool. It possibly could have prevented what happened in Oxford. Obviously, there's a lot of egregious details about the Crumbleys and their treatment of this firearm, potentially buying it for him, not getting Ethan Crumbley the help that he so desperately needed. But it could also go a long way to prevent a lot of these senseless acts of violence, particularly those suffering from mental health challenges with PTSD, thinking about suicide, or just accidents that happen. So it's something that just has to be done.
You can learn more information by visiting legislature.mi.gov to read Senate Bill 0553 from 2021. Again, that is Senate Bill 0553, legislature.mi.gov to read that legislation, that proposed legislation in full that was proposed in June of last year. We're joined by Senator Mallory McMorrow, representing Royal Oak in District 13 here in the state of Michigan. Senator, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else at this time that would be important for your constituents or others here in Oakland County to know?
Absolutely. Just this past week, we introduced, my colleagues and I, a package of bills here to tackle the high cost of prescription drugs. We know this is something here in Oakland County that's important to constituents and is incredibly frustrating that it is constantly an issue that we have not seen Congress and the federal government act on. So we introduced legislation that would create a prescription drug affordability board here in the state of Michigan that would really replicate what we see with the Public Services Commission that currently operates to oversee utility costs. The utility providers have to submit their rate cases to the Public Services Commission for approval. And if there's an egregious rate increase, the commission has the power to act. So this would create something similar for prescription drugs and create a forum where drug manufacturers could come, they could defend, they could say why a drug is priced the way it is, but would potentially give us a very, very powerful tool to bring the maximum cost down for Michigan residents here. And it's something that multiple other states have done so far, and we are optimistic that this will be really impactful for our residents, and we're hopeful that it moves forward.
Senator, thank you very much for joining us, giving us some insight into legislation that you're working on, other things that are in the works as well, and some insight on our Ukrainian-American response to what's going on in Ukraine with the Russian invasion on today's Megacast. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you, Tyler.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sophia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes, they stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft. Cynthia Dane founded Recipes for a Reason. After her husband died of cancer, she has developed a line of healthy, clean soups that are great to go for those fighting cancer and for people who just want to live a healthy lifestyle. Cynthia, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So as we mentioned there in that initial blurb from your website, Recipes for a Reason was inspired by your late husband, Kendall. Can you tell us about Kendall and what his battle with cancer did to inspire you to begin Recipes for a Reason?
Bad memories. He was diagnosed in 2015, and he passed in 2016. And it was a late stage, so pancreatic cancer diagnoses don't have a really good outcome. So we went through, he wasn't going to do anything. You know, people either decide they're going to go through chemotherapy and treatment and do everything they can to try and fight it. And then some people say, I'm not going to do anything. It is what it is, and it's my time. And I think you never know what kind of person you're going to be until you actually have to face that. So he was initially not going to do anything. And I think he ended up doing chemo and radiation just for me, just for his family, to see what he could do to extend his life. What they call a cancer journey is really a nightmare, and anyone who's been through that experience can tell you it's a nightmare. And I'd be willing to bet that there are very few of your listeners who have not been touched by cancer, either themselves or a loved one or a friend of a friend. Everyone knows, almost everyone knows someone who has had a cancer experience. So this is something that's everywhere. But when it hits you very personally, it's very difficult to live with.
So Recipes for a Reason, it's a healthy food product line and has also some ingredients that you talk about on your website also, and a lot of really helpful information. Your four really pillars there are nutrition, taste, convenience, and health. So can you explain to us where that motivation came to form Recipes for a Reason and begin to help people live a healthier lifestyle and learn how to do so in the process?
When you're sick, you don't always like to eat a lot. And I've always been really healthy. And when I was being a caregiver, there was nothing that was clean enough on the market that was up to my standards, that was clean enough and nutritious enough. and to be able to pack a lot of nutrition into a small space. So that's why I decided to develop my own. I think we have a mindset in America that you wake up in the morning and you say, what do I want to eat? As opposed to saying, what does my body need me to eat to be healthy? So that track of I want to eat healthy, because that's one of the few things that you can control to prevent disease, and specifically to prevent cancer. They say, I think the statistics are like 80% of cancers are lifestyle related. So if you eat healthy and you exercise, your chances are much slimmer. And people worry about threats like dying in an airplane crash or being struck by lightning or being in an automobile accident. But nobody goes to the grocery store and thinks, if I buy this and eat this food every day, I'm going to have cancer 20 years from now, because it's not an overnight thing. Your body grows cancer over a very long period of time. So to say to yourself every day, I'm going to try and eat healthy is not always easy to do, but it's the best thing you can do to be able to control the outcomes of the rest of your life. So eating healthy means you have to eat healthy every day. You can't just say, I'm going to eat healthy on Monday or on Monday to make up for what I ate over the weekend and go from there. You kind of have to eat healthy every single day and make good food choices, which our lifestyle these days, being so busy, is very difficult to do. So there needed to be something I felt on the market that was convenient to use. So I have these individual servings. You can pop it in a pan of warm water, or if you prefer, you can put it in the microwave. It's ready to go. It's nutrient dense. I pack as much vegetable and fruit into this little small space as I can. It's easy to digest, and it's a comfort food. Soup is a good comfort food.
We're joined by Cynthia Dane, the founder of Recipes for a Reason, joining us on the Megacast. Their website, r4r.health. That's r4r.health. 4 is the number 4. R, the number 4, r.health. Their website for Recipes for a Reason. And so, Cynthia, there are plenty of quote-unquote health food lines that are produced in Michigan, that are produced all throughout the U.S. and around the world, that are selling a product, claiming it's healthy, and it may be. In many cases, it is. For your line specifically, for these soups and these other products that you sell, what sets them apart from other quote-unquote health foods and those other foods that people may be finding at their local market every day?
First of all, in order to use the word health on your packaging, there are FDA standards. So you have to meet certain standards for certain vitamins and a certain amount of fiber that's in the foods. So mine meet those standards. That's why I'm allowed to use that word health. There are, fortunately, a lot of better products on the market than used to be, but you have to read labels. You have to make sure that there aren't ingredients that you can't pronounce. The thing that I believe separates my product is that it's all whole foods, it's all natural ingredients, and we look at trying to get enough vitamins and minerals and fiber. It's not a lot of broth with a little bit of vegetables like some soups are. It's a ton of vegetables and fruits, and then broth is the secondary ingredient. We do make our own broth with our own stock, with 13 vegetables and spices and herbs. Normally a stock is carrots, celery, onions, and minimal amounts of vegetables, but we pack as much into the stock and we pack as much into the actual soup as we can.
We're joined by Cynthia Dane, the founder of Recipes for a Reason, joining us on the Megacast and also on your website at r4r.health. You have a link to ingredients, which lists really all the ingredients that you have and you regularly use in your soup products that are also available on your shop, on your website also. So what's the motivation behind the educational elements of this? Because it's one thing to sell healthy products, to meet those FDA standards, to put health on your product and claim your product is a health product, but to provide that education on specific ingredients, why is that so important for consumers to learn exact specifics about where their food comes from, but also what benefits certain ingredients or certain foods can have in their nutrition?
When you look up, I mean, if you Google something like foods that fight cancer, the there are specific things in specific vegetables, like cruciferous vegetables, like garlic, onions, leafy greens. There are specific things that studies have been done on to specifically fight cancer. So mushrooms are very high, good for your immune system, and specific mushrooms are better for certain types of cancer. So if you know that, not only are you eating fresh and you're eating as local as you can, but you know that this specific food is helping towards fighting a specific disease, then you're farther along the road to being healthy.
We're joined by Cynthia Dane, founder of Recipes for a Reason, joining us on the Megacaster website, r4r.health, r4r.health. That's lowercase r, the number 4, lowercase r.health. For more information, find the ingredients with a list of information as well on what each of these ingredients do to provide that extra bolster to your nutritional regimen, as well as their shop, where you can shop for a number of different soup products right there from their website, directly helping this Michigan business. And so, Cynthia, for those that may be interested in your Recipes for a Reason soups, are there places locally where viewers or listeners would be able to buy these products, or is it specifically on your website?
Currently, it's at the Health Mart in downtown Milford. It's at the Fresh Collective Market in Berkeley, and it's at Market Square in Bloomfield. So I'm just kind of starting my marketing process to get into local facilities.
Well, it's clearly reaching the community and spreading out throughout the community too, into different places, and so the greater access to these products, certainly great for your business, but also great for our communities as well. We're joined by Cynthia Dane, founder of Recipes for a Reason, joining us on the Megacaster website, r4r.health is their website, with more information on the ingredients in their soups, other soup products themselves, as well as some helpful information and links to articles on a number of different health topics and different resources you can go to learn more and take advantage of this information that they've done some research on and that they have provided to you, so that you can make informed decisions about your health. Cynthia, just a few more minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else at this time that would be important for our audience to know about R4R Health, or any other topics we haven't discussed today that you'd like to discuss?
The soups are organic, vegan, dairy-free, soy-free, gluten-free, and nut-free, because we process in a nut-free facility. And I have been amazed at the number of people. The reception to these soups is very good. You say it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, and people immediately, or a lot of people, will wrinkle their nose and say, it probably doesn't taste good. My chef is amazing. These soups taste really good. And for all the people out there who are trying to eat healthy, this is a convenient way to do it. And there are a lot of people out there trying to change. There are a lot of people trying to eat healthy. And, if you look at, it's kind of not like eating eggs, which are good for you today, not good for you tomorrow. Eat part of it, eat the whole thing. Milk is good today, maybe not tomorrow. But when you look at all the lists of foods that are good for fighting cancers and other diseases, with ingredients that are high antioxidant, high anti-inflammatory, that list is pretty consistent. So you've got your garlic, your onions, your leafy greens, your cruciferous vegetables, your berries, your stone fruit. That's pretty consistent list. And incorporating just a little bit of those ingredients in your daily menus just will really make a difference in your life.
And so just to take a step back to your products themselves, organic ingredients that you mentioned you have a great chef that has put together these really tasty recipes that are healthy, but also are going to be very enjoyable for those that consume these products. For you and for your chef, as you were devising these recipes, what goes through your head in that process to put these healthy foods together in a way that makes them still be enjoyable for those that are consuming them? Because I would think for so many people that are transitioning into a more healthy lifestyle, particularly on the nutrition front, or for those that are continuing to live a healthy lifestyle, one of the greater challenges would be employing healthy foods into their nutrition, but also making it tasty and making it an enjoyable experience, because that is part of the joy of food.
We take, my chef is Laura Ramito, and she sells High Five salts. Her specialty is making sure that all of your senses are satisfied when you eat something. So you're salty, you're sweet, you're sour, you umami, and there's one more. I can never remember the fifth one. There's one more. So I give her the basic ingredients to start with, and then she makes it taste good. So we have 4 soups currently in production, and we're about to do the 5th, which is a roasted Brussels sprouts. You say Brussels sprouts to people, and a lot of people don't like them. So we've used roasted Brussels sprouts, a good cruciferous vegetable, and we've added pears and pepitas. So you've got a little bit of crunch there, you've got a little bit of sweetness, and you've got the basic cruciferous vegetables. And when you roast Brussels sprouts, if you cook them correctly, they're sweet, they're yummy, they're yummy. So we look at what are the basic ingredients from the lists of cancer-fighting foods. I call it my cancer-combative cuisine. And then she'll add the right spices, the right proportions to make it taste fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, their website, r4r.health. We're joined by Cynthia Dane, founder of Recipes for a Reason. Cynthia, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Tyler, for having me.
Appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, when we come back on your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills, we'll kick off the Michigan Megacast Hour with Dr. Augie Arbulu with the W Tax Group to talk about some helpful deductions that you can take on your 2021 taxes and how you can both avoid and relieve issues with the IRS should those arise. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM. April 18th is tax day this year, and to help you keep ahead of all the new rules in place and help you prevent having a conversation with the friendly folks over at the Internal Revenue Service, we are pleased to be joined now by Dr. Augustin Arbulu, President and COO of the W Tax Group. Dr. Arbulu, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome, Tyler. Just call me Augie. Please.
Augie, okay, I will call you Augie then. Augie, of course, as I mentioned, April 18th is the day that taxes are due to be filed in the U.S. this year. Can you tell us, as we're approaching that date and people are preparing their taxes, either themselves individually, using an online service, maybe going to a CPA, whatever the case may be, what are some of the common mistakes that people may make on their taxes this year that could get them in some murky water, or at least having to do corrections with the IRS?
Oftentimes, it's really omission of income. It'll be either a W-2 or more likely a 1099 that they didn't include. You can get a 1099 for $5 that you interest you earned from an institution, or you get a 1099 that comes in late. Sometimes it hasn't yet come to the taxpayer, and by the time they file it, sometimes they file it early, it's not reported, and they just forgot. As you get older, people do tend to forget. Oftentimes, I will advise clients to take their time, maybe ask for an extension to make sure you have received all the necessary information to prepare your return.
And so, Augie, at W Tax Group, you and your fellow tax attorneys specialize in helping those who, for some reasons or another, may run into quote-unquote tax problems and have to make corrections, or may run into some legal issues with the IRS in correcting those issues. What are some of those common reasons or likely reasons that someone may have received a letter from the IRS, and then at that point, where does the process start? What should their immediate next moves be?
First of all, there's an incredible number of people who have not filed returns. The estimates are well over 25 million taxpayers in this country that have not even filed their tax returns. The average number of years that taxpayers haven't filed average about 6 years. So oftentimes the IRS will eventually catch up. They'll send a notice, we haven't received a return, and what's going on. And taxpayers, if they haven't filed their returns, they'll put it away. And it's also common with individuals. There's about 37% or more of Americans or taxpayers who are unable to meet their tax obligation. That is, they file their tax returns, but they owe money and they don't have the funds to take care of that. So what you're dealing with are non-filers, taxpayers who file their returns and are unable to take care of their tax obligation. I always advise clients that if you haven't filed your returns for years and eventually the IRS catches up to you, you want to get compliant. And we can talk about what compliant means. For people who are filing their returns but are not able to meet their tax obligations, they can think about an installment agreement. There are financially based installment agreements and there's non-financial based installment agreements. The IRS tends to be pretty flexible when it comes to non-financial, meaning you don't have to disclose your finance to get into a payment plan. You just need to be willing to come forth and see if we can work out a payment arrangement that meets with the taxpayers' monthly needs, and they can cover that. So there's a lot of different aspects. Regarding the non-filer, that's a bigger challenge because the IRS policy is to work out something with the IRS, you first have to be compliant. And from the IRS perspective, the policy on compliance, meaning you filed your returns and you've done everything you can to stay current filing your returns, it's 6 years. And so for 2021, they're looking back to 2016 and forward that you need to get all those returns filed to be compliant. And if you owe taxes, after you become compliant, you get the returns prepared and you show you owe taxes, is to then do a workout plan with the IRS, some form of a payment arrangement. And if you can't afford the kind of payment arrangement they're seeking, it could be because your finances won't allow that. And in that regard, we come into play. We help the taxpayer put together their finance to see what is affordable, as the IRS calls it, determine what your monthly disposable income is.
We're joined by Dr. Augustin Arbulu, President and COO of W Tax Group, joining us on the Megacast. So you mentioned getting compliant and then working out those plans for paying off whatever taxes you may not have paid back to the IRS over a number of years, upwards of 6 years or beyond. So if someone gets compliant, and if someone is compliant but they haven't paid their taxes and they haven't worked out a plan with the IRS, what are some of the numerous penalties or legal troubles that a person can find themselves in for not properly filing and then, of course, properly paying what taxes they may owe?
Right. What happens is that when you haven't paid your taxes, the IRS begins to send you notices, reminder notices. You owe this amount. This is what. Please make arrangement to get it paid. And oftentimes people will ignore it. And then you get another notice, and then you get another notice. So there's a series of notices that the IRS sends out, each one getting a little more aggressive. To eventually where they will say, hey, this is your last notice. You have in the next 30 days, if you don't contact us and you don't make arrangements, we're going to levy you your account. We're either going to garnish your wages, we're going to take some action. And so the IRS has a number of tools available, from filing liens on property to levying, going after your bank accounts, garnishing your wages. And the last thing you want, if you are W-2, you're employed, is to have your wages garnished, because then it becomes a little challenging to get them removed. And the amount that they can take from a paycheck can be substantial. So you really do want to respond as soon as possible, and seeing someone a professional that can help you work out those issues with the IRS. It's important. A lot of times people say, well, I can do that on my own. It's intimidating. It's scary for people to deal with the IRS. So I always advise them, get yourself a tax professional who specializes in working with the IRS and working out resolutions for a tax individual taxpayer.
Augie, another serious issue related to taxes is, of course, tax fraud. What are the more common types of tax fraud that is encountered by the IRS, or in interactions between the IRS and taxpayers or agencies that may be paying taxes, such as businesses? And is it typically bad actors who are committing a fraud on purpose, or is it simple mistakes that people are making that add up over time and get them under scrutiny by the IRS?
Well, simple omissions can be explained, but if you are omitting income and your lifestyle does not reflect what you're reporting, then there's an issue. That's on the one hand, that's sort of an omission of income, that you don't report all the earnings that you make. But in today's day and age, with communication and technology the way it is, you're going to be able to decipher how much you're making. And if you think you're not, you're kidding yourself. The IRS has tools available to figure it out. They can access your bank accounts. They can look at your lifestyle and how you live. Is it way above what you're reporting? So that's an income omission issue. Then, of course, you have other people. A lot of times, businesses will report excessive expenses as a way of reducing what their taxable income is. You have to be prepared on both ends to substantiate how much income you really make and how much expenses, those expenses that you're incurring. And too often people get lax and ignore both sides of it. Report what you have earned, that's reportable taxable income, and substantiate the expenses. The IRS will at times, I've seen it often in a number of cases that I will deal with, that they forget to provide that substantiation. If you've got alimony that at one time was deductible, we'll present the checks, present the proof that you've been making alimony payments to your former wife and you're deducting it, or other expenses, business-related expenses that you can prove. And those are the kinds of areas that you have to be careful about. And if you push it too far one way or the other, then you get into the realm of maybe fraud, that you are purposely evading from having to pay. If it's an honest mistake, we call it an honest mistake. But then you get to those individuals who think they can outsmart the taxing authorities, and I say that's virtually impossible to do.
Yeah, you want to do what's best for your bottom line, but you have to keep it within the books. You have to keep it within the letter of the law in order to take advantage of those benefits without trying to take advantage of the system, which can get you in legal trouble. We're joined by Dr. Augustin Arbulu, President and CEO of W Tax Group. You can learn more information on their website, wtaxattorney.com. That's wtaxattorney.com. Augie, back to just the average daily person, and on some more of a positive note, as people are filing their taxes this year, what are some of the common deductions that are often left on the table, and some deductions that are available this year that regular taxpayers like myself that may be filing their taxes, filling out their taxes, may overlook but be able to take advantage of?
Well, let's remember, we have a very generous standard deduction. At one time, you could be able to itemize, if you remember many years ago. But over the years, they have raised the standard deduction that it's very difficult to itemize your expenses to exceed the standard deduction. So I always tell the client, just take your standard deduction. But then there are credits, charitable contribution. I think there's and I'm not a tax preparer, and we can talk about the differences. I'm more about tax resolution. But in terms of some advantages, you've got earned income credits. You have a child tax credit. If you have children that can qualify, you have the charitable contribution credits. So there are credits out there that are available, and you want to take full advantage of those that exist based on where you are income-wise. And for example, like charitable contribution credits, I think you can do, if you're married, up to $300 or $600, and you don't have to show any proof on that. That's automatically given to you.
So, Augie, you mentioned as you were answering that you as a tax attorney, you work primarily on resolution of tax-related issues, whereas there are those that may work on both resolution and preparation. So what is the difference between those agencies that and what they can do in working on resolution versus preparation of taxes?
Well, every year we have to prepare our returns. This country is built on voluntary disclosure and filing of your returns, as you know. And so you have to prepare your returns. I always advise people, get a professional to prepare your return. Don't do it on your own. I can't tell you how many cases I get with people who will tell me, I asked them, did you get your tax return was filed? Yes. Who prepared it? I prepared it. Not that TurboTax is bad or another software is bad, but you need a professional to be able to make sure all your deductions are in order and you are able to get the maximum benefits from having it properly prepared and filed. So that, to me, is number one. That's what tax preparation is all about. You have to have your returns filed before you can address issues that could arise from the fact that you filed returns the IRS is challenging. A lot of times they're challenging because you've omitted some income or you're claiming some expenses that they want you to provide evidence of those expenses. So let's do that. And I think that in this country, most people will aim to have all that supporting document. But for some reason, taxpayers, when they get that letter from the IRS, they ignore it or they don't take the time to really carefully look at what the IRS is asking, respond to it timely. That's about tax resolution. That's about resolving challenges, push back with the IRS. And they understand that. And if you provide the evidence, you're going to be in a more strong footing to be able to claim the deductions or ensure that you're not paying any more than you need to be paying the IRS or any taxing authority.
Augie, just a few more minutes with you before we say goodbye. Any other tax-related issues that we haven't touched on today that would be important for our audience to be considering at this time as we approach April 18th?
Well, if we approach April 18th, I always, as we're getting older, I always say, have you gathered all the necessary information? And if you're not sure, you have the right to seek an automatic extension to October 15th of the year. Take advantage of it so you can calmly make sure that you've gathered all the information you need, both on the income side, on the expense side, to be able to go to your tax preparer and have him or her put together the returns for filing. that would be something that I advise clients to do. And if you get a notice, if you get an IRS notice because there's a income discrepancy or they're asking for substantiation, don't ignore it. Get yourself a tax professional who can advise you, walk you through that. The last thing you want is to ignore that, because that's where you have opportunities to cost you less in terms of this, in terms of addressing what the IRS is seeking, as opposed to later on you're trying to reconstruct things. And a lot of times taxpayers can't do that, or it becomes too late and you can't challenge the claims of the IRS because you never challenged it in the first place.
Augie, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Tyler. Thank you so much for having me.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. Learn more about the Michigan Megacast at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can find information on our entire network of stations, including here on My Michigan TV, otherwise known as My. Restaurants, hotels, and other businesses have continued to operate in a balancing act of sorts, promoting public safety while maintaining their bottom line. Here to talk about where the industry is and its recovery and to forecast the near future is John McNamara, Vice President of Government Affairs at the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. John, thanks for being back with us.
Thanks for having me again.
Appreciate having you on. So more than half of restaurant operators expect recruiting and retaining employees to be their top challenge here in 2022. Are we starting to see that labor in the restaurant industry and lodging is still a huge problem? Is it starting to improve? Where is it at right now?
It's not good. I wish I could say that, it was starting to improve, but actually we just had a Capitol Day here in Lansing yesterday and had about 100 members in town to meet with their legislators and sort of discuss the state of the industry. And the number one issue that came up in every single meeting was labor force. And they're doing everything they can to try to get people to come to work, but they're having still a very, very hard time getting people to come. And what's even worse is sometimes they'll get someone for a shift or two, and then that person will just stop showing up.
And so give us an insight on just how that does affect these businesses, because even the most successful restaurant or the most successful hotel that's able to maintain itself financially, if they don't have the staff in place, that has significant impact on the way they operate their business and then ultimately their bottom line. What are some of those impacts that it has on just their day-to-day operations?
So the impacts on day-to-day are they're having to, close on certain days, or maybe, not offer breakfast, or, just close certain sections of the restaurant, or force servers to, some servers maybe had 3 or 4 tables. Now they're taking 7 or 8. So, people might walk in and say, oh man, that restaurant's busy, the industry's back. That is incredibly not true. What people don't see is, one, maybe they're dining in prime time on a Friday night, but what they don't see is the Tuesday night when restaurants are, still kind of empty, but also restaurants make money on table turns. And if you have a person who's doing 7 or 8 tables, there's probably going to be a wait, and people might want to wait. And then, they're just not going to turn that table 3-4 times, a meal like they're used to doing. They might turn it twice. So still a lot of way to go to build this industry back. And labor force is going to be one of them. And then the supply chain stabilizing is going to be another one.
We're joined by John McNamara, Vice President of Government Affairs at the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association on the Michigan Megacast. More information on the program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. And so what are restaurants and what are hotels doing at this time? And in the past, there's been a number of incentives. There's been signing bonuses. There's been increased base wages and so on. There's been a number of different incentives that have been thrown out there over the last several months, really the last year, to try to get people to fill these jobs. What have our restaurants and our hotel businesses found to be those incentives that work, and how are they modifying their approach to continue to try to attract people to these jobs?
So I would say I think the incentives are largely gone. And some of those worked and some of those didn't. It was a valiant effort. But right now, what people are doing is trying to change laws to make it so that, younger kids can work. You have 15, 16, 17-year-olds who are eager and want to work and, want some spending money. But the process for doing that is slightly more complicated. So, for example, there's a bill sponsored by Representative Michelle Hoytinga, who represents the Cadillac area, that would allow 17-year-olds, to run an alcoholic drink to a table. Currently, state of Michigan, it's 18. But we are working with her in order to change that to try to allow people to enter the workforce and do different things they previously couldn't do at a younger age. Because those are the kids who are saying, "I'll show up. I want to work. I want to make money." So it's going to be changing, but I think we're probably still 6 months to a year away from this labor force stabilizing. The labor force in Michigan and the hospitality industry is still about 60,000 people shy of where it was pre-COVID.
And so, John, as much as the labor issue can cause problems for these restaurants, ultimately, as you said, it's about turning these tables over. It's about bringing customers in to buy these products, and that ultimately go to funding these businesses and keeping them alive. We've seen in the past where COVID-19 has surged, and there's been a significant reduction in the number of people that have gone to restaurants, and then, of course, the period of time earlier on in the pandemic, in the early portions of the pandemic, when restaurants were closed to in-person dining altogether. At this time, what is the state of in-person dining? Are we finding that Michiganders are going back out to restaurants in more normal succession, especially given that the most recent surge of COVID-19 has significantly relaxed and it seems like we're heading in a good direction?
I think we're headed in a good direction, and I would say I think that day is hopefully coming, but right now you're still seeing a lot of takeout, and you're seeing a lot of people who are, would prefer to eat outside, which is hopefully going to be a reality sooner later than later here in Michigan. But you're still seeing people utilize igloos, the outdoor heaters, the sort of greenhouse type of places. So there are some people who are ready to get right back, but there is still definitely a sect of the population that is still somewhat nervous about dining indoors. And all we can do is keep stressing that before COVID, the main goal of restaurants was to have as clean of a restaurant as possible. During COVID, obviously some of that stepped up, but these places were vanguards of safety and health before, and continue to want to be able to do that. But it's just going to take some time, I think, for public trust to come back in that sector.
We're joined by John McNamara, Vice President of Government Affairs at the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. More information on the website, including career opportunities in the restaurant industry and in the hotel industry here in Michigan, on the website mrla.org. That is mrla.org to learn more information and get in contact with Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. So on the hotels front, John, lodging is a critical industry in the state of Michigan for our tourist industry, especially in the summer months and in the fall months, which are peak season for tourism here in the Great Lakes state. Now, where are our hotels at in their economic recovery from the effects of the pandemic? It's a different ballgame than it is with restaurants, but there are some similar wrinkles in there that are affecting hotels in similar ways and in very different ways than our restaurants.
Yeah, the hotels, as I've said before, the hotels are the ones that really got lost in all of this, because their economic outlook is just as bleak in some areas as it is for the restaurant side of what I do day to day in this association. business travel is still very, very, very slow. I was in a hotel 2 weekends ago on business, and they were thrilled I was there 2 nights. The one-night business travel is largely gone, and I think some of that business travel may never come back, because I think companies have looked at bottom lines and said, well, if we can do this over Zoom and conference calls, why spend the time and money? And it can be far more efficient. Leisure travel, I'm hoping this summer is going to be back to normal. Obviously, Northern Michigan in the summer, in my opinion, is one of the best places in the world to be. So hopefully we have another robust tourism season up north. They are definitely ready for it. But hotels are having just as much trouble. The housekeeping side is very tough. There's a lot of hotels who, in some instances, could fill rooms at capacity, but are now not doing it simply because they don't have people to be able to even clean the rooms every second or third day. So continuing to work there, the H-2B and the J-1 visas at the federal level are very, very important for the hotel industry. And luckily, Congress realizes that, and the Michigan delegation realizes that. And Congresswoman Slotkin and Senator Stabenow have both been very helpful on that front to try to increase the number of H-2B and J-1 visas that are issued. Typically, there's about 30-ish thousand issued. Right now, there's about applications for 130. So there are people who are wanting to come here and wanting to fill these jobs. It's just getting the correct mechanisms in place to allow them to do so.
Yeah, and then that will be critical for the hotel industry, for the restaurant industry, and for other industries too that are looking to fill these jobs that Americans,
Absolutely,
for one reason or another, are not clamoring to fill, despite having great opportunities in these industries. If we're allowing more people to come in on visas and we're expediting that process to allow good people that are willing to work these jobs to come in, that's going to be a big help for everyone across the board in our economy. We're joined by John McNamara, Vice President of the of Government Affairs of the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, with us on the Megacast. More information on their website, mrla.org. That's mrla.org. Last month, the MRLA formed the Hospitality Training Institute of Michigan, or HTIM, to help improve attributes and skill sets for those in these industries through a 12-week training and certificate program. Can you talk about the Training Institute, the goals of this training program, and the ways it can help professionals in these industries advance their careers?
Absolutely. So the HTIM would be very similar to our ProStart program. And ProStart is a high school culinary program that helps train this next generation of leaders. That would be more on the restaurant side. But obviously, as we merged and the pandemic hit, we realized that the hotel industry is going to need a similar program. So the goal of the Hospitality Training Institute of Michigan is to train the next generation of leaders in the sort of hotel lodging industry. So it is a 12-week program. It's a certificate. But, it is a pathway to a job and to a career. And there's, the hospitality industry, there's lots of jobs available where you can make a very good living with, a high school diploma or some proper training. But what we really saw during the pandemic was, those employees that were willing to work became de facto managers, became de facto supervisors without the proper training of knowing what it means to lead a team and run a business and then sort of work in this industry. So the goal of HTIM is to train people in order to be able to walk in and then be leaders sort of in this industry and grow. So we have a Midland group going right now. We have a Lansing group going right now, and then we have an online cohort starting in April.
And so, John, if people in the industry would be interested in taking advantage of this training program, how can they get involved?
They can go to our website, and then, Amanda Smith at MRLA is our Executive Vice President of Education and Training, and she would be the best person to talk to if you're interested in getting involved. But we are absolutely looking to grow this program. We've had some very good meetings with legislative leaders and appropriations chairs in Lansing on getting this off the ground. And we think, unfortunately, the workforce that has not come back yet is more than likely never coming back. So, we are now going to have to train and find a whole new generation of leaders in this industry and in this workforce. And we believe between ProStart and HTIM, that will be a very good start to making that happen.
Yeah, great training opportunities available through the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association on their website, mrla.org/training. That is mrla.org/training. You can also find more information across the board from the MRLA on their website, mrla.org. You mentioned the ProStart program also for those younger individuals in the state at the high school level looking to get into the restaurant industry in particular. You last week. You were part of the MRLA's ProStart Culinary Competition that was held in Lansing. Can you talk about that competition and the way that it gives that opportunity, that hands-on experience to these kids that are in the ProStart program to hone their craft, but also get both some judgment, but also advice from professionals in the industry?
Yeah, so ProStart is in about 70 schools. And unfortunately, 2020, it was completely canceled. In 2021, we were able to do portions of it online. So this was our first year back in person. And it is always one of my favorite 2 days of the year. It's a ton of work, but to watch kids from all over the state come and be able to show their craft and learn skills. But then, as you mentioned, we have executive chefs and have leaders in the industry come and offer them constructive criticisms and way they can grow is just so fun to watch. So we were super excited to be back in person this year. We only had 13 schools, which is a little low, but we were just happy to be back in person. So hopefully next year, all of this is behind us and every single school that is usually here is able to attend, and maybe the program has grown. But, these kids walk out and are ready to work in a restaurant on day one. Coming out of high school. So it's an incredible program. We've already gone in and asked for an increase in funding to try to grow this program. But it was so great to see, high school kids be able to be out and be passionate. And those kids work really, really hard. And it means a lot to them that they're able to do this. So it's a wonderful program.
John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. More information from the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association on their website, mrla.org. That is mrla.org for those training opportunities, including opportunities with the Hospitality Training Institute of Michigan, or HTIM, on their website, mrla.org/training. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll talk about supporting seniors, caregivers, and those with disabilities with Kathleen Yanik from the Area Agency on Aging 1B. That's up next. This is the Michigan Megacast.
Today it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
211, how can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
We work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
a rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation.
Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the Michigan Megacast by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com, clicking on our Megacast link, or just typing in civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us now is Kathleen Yanik, the Communications Manager at the Area Agency on Aging 1B, a Share Detroit-supported charity and nonprofit with us. Kathleen, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So the Area Agency on Aging 1B, most people would think it has to do with supporting those that are aging in our communities, but actually this agency provides a number of different services. So break it down for us. Give us an overview of what the Area Agency on Aging 1B provides to our community.
Sure. So, we are a nonprofit. We've been around since 1974, so almost 50 years. We serve 6 counties here in southeastern Michigan, Oakland being one, of course, the others being Livingston, Macomb, Monroe, St. Clair, and Washtenaw. I hope I haven't forgotten any. So, yes, we're all about helping seniors, adults with disabilities and family caregivers. And our services are all about helping older adults stay, living at home and giving them the support that they need to stay living with independence and dignity in the community. We do that in lots of different ways, and I'll kind of run through kind of a broad spectrum of our programs here. But one of the most important things that we do is we have an information and referral telephone line, and that helps both seniors and family caregivers connect with services and supports in the community. And that can be services and supports that we're offering directly, or it can be services and supports and programs that are offered by other community organizations. And you can see the phone number right there above my head, that 800-852-7795 phone number. That phone number is really the front door to our agency. When you call, we have some wonderful resource specialists who are both very compassionate and very knowledgeable. They'll ask you questions, listen, try to understand what your situation is, see if you might qualify for one of our programs or services, and if you do, kind of help you get started there. And also perhaps direct you to some other supports in the community. Again, that's the front door to our agency. If you don't remember anything else I say today, please remember that phone number is there to help you and is really the first call that you should make if you or an older adult that you know needs help. Another wonderful thing, another program that we have is we have a couple of government-funded care programs that can bring care into the home to help with those, activities of daily living that an older adult might not be able to do for themselves anymore. So that's things like, getting dressed, preparing meals, things like getting to the toilet, running errands, keeping the house tidy. So these care programs bring folks, directly into the home to help older adults and adults with disabilities, get that extra support they need to stay living at home. With our care programs, it's important to remember that there are eligibility requirements. So that might be financial eligibility requirements related to your income and your assets. And it also can be eligibility requirements related to the kind of care that you need. What I really try to emphasize to folks is not to worry so much about those eligibility requirements at first and whether or not you'd qualify, but give us a call to see if, this might be a program that could help you or your loved one. And I am going to encourage, folks that, it's not only the senior that can call us, it's also, that family member that might be, providing care or support. They can call us as well and see if they can get their loved one started in one of our programs. We also offer a wonderful transportation options program called My Ride Too. So it's helping people who might not be able to drive anymore, either because, they're older or because they have a disability. It's helping them connect with transportation resources out in the community. So we have a big database of transportation providers, and you can give us a call and we will help figure and let us know where you need to go and when you need to go there. We'll help you connect with the transportation provider that would be able to help, and we'll even arrange that ride for you. So it's this really lovely concierge program that's doing all the legwork and helping people find those transportation options that can help them. Through that My Ride Too transportation program, we also have a partnership with the rideshare program Lyft. Now, as you know, Lyft, it really requires you to use a smartphone to schedule those rides. This can be really hard for older adults or people with disabilities. It might be difficult for them to use that smartphone application to do that. So if you call our My Ride Too program, we'll do that for you. We'll help schedule the ride. We'll help you arrange the payment. And so it really makes Lyft available to this whole, swath of folks that might not otherwise be able to use it and who really need those transportation options. Another thing that I'll tell you about Lyft is you're not just going to get any old, Lyft driver. You're going to get somebody who is, specially trained and vetted to help serve older adults and help serve people with disabilities. So that's a fantastic program available to serve seniors here and people with disabilities here in Oakland County. Another wonderful program that we have is our Medicare Medicaid Assistance Program. And this program brings unbiased and free help to Medicare and Medicaid beneficiaries. We've got a team of highly trained volunteer counselors, and they get lots of training from CMS every year in our MAP program every year. They can help Medicare beneficiaries compare programs, make some really well-informed choices, maybe even save some money. They can help them troubleshoot problems or answer questions. Right now it's open enrollment for Medicare Advantage, and we've got volunteer counselors that are ready to help. That's happening through March 31st. And if you give us a phone call, if you give us a call, we're going to help you connect one of those volunteer counselors. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That phone number, 800-852-7795, 800-852-7795. You can also learn more information on the Area Agency on Aging 1B's website, aaa1b.org. That is AAA1b.org. The number 1 is in there. AAA, the number 1b.org for more information. We're joined by Kathleen Yanik, the communications manager at the Area Agency on Aging 1B. So a lot of this goes to senior services for seniors, for those that may have disabilities and need some assistance in our community. But there's also great resources through your organization for caregivers also, because in many cases it's a family member, it's a close confidant of the person in need, and they may not know what they're doing. They may not know entirely what they're doing in that situation. They're learning it as they're going and trying to help this person that they love. But there are resources out there through this agency and through others. But for your agency specifically, what resources are there to assist caregivers in providing that tender, loving care to that loved one of theirs without being necessarily an expert in caregiving?
Yeah, so, caregiving can be, as you know, really rewarding, but it can be overwhelming too. So that's one of the things that we're doing, is we're providing that support for family caregivers. We're doing this in a couple of ways. One, we have a really amazing evidence-based class called Powerful Tools for Caregivers. And that is a 6-week workshop. You meet once a week for 6 weeks with other folks who are kind of going through the same thing that you're going through. And the class is really all about helping caregivers learn to, take care of themselves while taking care of a loved one. Because that's, sometimes people kind of put themselves on the back burner. They get really stressed. They get really overwhelmed. There can be some really complicated emotions that sometimes go along with caregiving. So that class can kind of help you learn how to take care of that. We also have a brand new program called Caregiver Coaching that I absolutely love. And this program pairs volunteer coaches, really compassionate volunteer coaches, with a caregiver. And this caregiver or this coach is going to kind of help that person through their journey. They're going to be someone to listen to them, someone to, kind of give them a shoulder to lean on. They're going to help them find resources. They're going to be that, sounding board if somebody's got difficult decisions to make and they're confused about what to do next. So they're, we call them, they're really cheerleaders, lifter uppers, and problem solvers is kind of what I describe them as. And you can go on our website and find out how to connect with that program. You can also call that phone number, that 800-852-7795 phone number, and we'll get you connected with one of our caregiver coaches.
It's a brand new program, but it's a really exciting program, and I'm really glad that we're able to give caregivers that one-on-one support that they really need, because it can be really tough.
So Kathleen, we got 1 minute left with you today. I want to give you an opportunity. You mentioned some of the volunteer opportunities to provide help to caregivers. What are some of the other volunteer opportunities available through the Area Agency on Aging 1B?
Yeah, so I mentioned our Medicare Medicaid assistance program. We're always looking for volunteers to join our MAP program as well. Just need to be willing to learn and willing to give us some time, and you can help really save beneficiaries lots of money. So it's really rewarding.
Well, Kathleen, we thank you so much for joining us. Anything else before we let you go that would be important for our audience to know or to be considering at this time about the Area Agency on Aging 1B?
Just please remember that we are here as a support to serve seniors, adults with disabilities, and family caregivers, and we hope you give us a call.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Again, their website for the Area Agency on Aging 1B, AAA, the number 1B.org, AAA, the number 1B.org, to learn more information and get access to all of these great resources, including and more information on where you can find your local office of the Area Agency on Aging 1B, a shared Detroit-supported charity and nonprofit. You can also learn more about this agency and other nonprofits as well and charities in the Metro Detroit area and across Michigan by visiting shareddetroit.org. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. I want to give a big thank you to everybody that joined us on today's edition of the program. Senator Mallory McMorrow, a Democrat from Michigan's 13th Senatorial District, for joining us at the beginning of the Oakland County Hour. Then Cynthia Dane, founder of Recipes for a Reason, who also joined us in the Oakland County Hour. Our Michigan Megacast guests as well, Dr. Augie Arbulu from the W Tax Group, helping us get ready for tax season. That deadline's coming up. It is April 18th. Our 11:20 guest, John McNamara from the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, giving us an update on everything that's happening with our restaurant industry and our hotel industry as they continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic and look toward a future that's still very uncertain at this time. And of course, Kathleen Yanik, the communications manager at the Area Agency on Aging 1B, for joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. All those interviews on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. They'll be there sometime mid to late afternoon, as well as our full episode if you're just tuning in and have missed our program on this Thursday edition of the Megacast. civiccentertv.com/megacast is where you're going to want to go. And you can also learn more information about all of our partnering stations. We're joined by a number of different community television and radio stations, as well as web outlets, such as our Facebook pages on our website at civiccentertv.com. And, of course, our flagship for the Michigan Megacast Hour, My Michigan TV, otherwise known as MyMyTV.com, or go to civiccentertv.com and click on our Megacast link for links to every single one of our partnering stations. Big thank you as well to our crew on today's edition of the show, making all of this possible. Calvin Brown, our technical director, doing our audio mixing with me here in the studio every day for 2 hours for our program and for another hour and a half for all of our other programming here on My each and every day. Our Zoom producer, Jared Clark, at the offices of My Michigan TV in Troy. Larry Nyland, the king of television, as we call him, our producer, getting everybody booked, helping them get ready, helping us get ready for informative interviews each and every day. And, of course, Mandy Mustian out at Master Control, helping us both on and off the air at 10 o'clock and at 12 noon. On My Michigan TV, a lot of great original programming coming up this afternoon. Of course, after the Megacast, from 12 noon to 1 p.m., we have Steve Leto live. He'll be talking about all things Michigan with some really interesting people. And then Larry Maddie live at 1 p.m. We will be back Friday morning with more Megacast at 10 a.m.